Back in on Monday morning, TYT Sports Francis and Jason here to finish up the Sports Illustrated top 10 NBA players heading into 2017. We did some key players from the top 70, and then we ran out of studio time, and now we're back Monday because late in the week got a little hectic. However, so this has been out for a little bit. The Twitter reaction to it is right on the fence because there's, of course, people in the LeBron camp who got the #1 overall rating, or whatever you want to call it, for the top 10 players. And there's people in the anti-LeBron camp who think it's absurd. The same goes for the Curry and Westbrook debate. But the biggest surprise, if you will, is that #2 on this list, and we can throw to this, is Kevin Durant over Steph Curry, which a lot of people were a little bit shocked about. Chris Paul at #4, Russell Westbrook at 5, Kawhi Leonard 6, Harden 7, Davis 8. Paul George sneaks into the top 10 this year at #9, and Blake Griffin drops about 4 or 5 spots from last year. Again, I do have to preempt this. I like Ben Golliver's writing. I think he's a fantastic NBA analyst, and I think when they lay out their reasoning for why they picked these as their top 10, it's hard to argue. Which is why I know when people start arguing about it, it means they didn't read their takes.
I can argue.
Yeah, I mean, there's of course arguments. I think Kawhi Leonard is severely underrated on this.
I think there's plenty of room outside of the #1 for movement. I think if you were to put Steph Curry second, I don't think you cause much of an uproar. You put Kawhi Leonard, I think, should be top 5. What I do argue with is the fact that you have Blake Griffin, if it's based on this season, in a top 10, and you don't have Draymond Green in that top 10. I think that's absolutely absurd. I think that's where you have a previous bias carrying over. I think that with the writer in this example, again, I've read his writing, I really enjoy it. But what you got to have with ratings for the top 100 players in the NBA this year, you got to have last year as your main basis.
Yes.
And Draymond Green was as essential as Steph Curry for the Golden State Warriors this year. He provided so much more when he was on the court. You've seen how much they suffered without him in that infamous game that if he didn't miss out, maybe they would have won and won. So the fact is, if you're going to rank it this year, and you're telling me that, and by the way, there could be a case made in there for Klay Thompson as well, who was influential for the Warriors, if it's going on this year. But if you're taking it collectively, looking at their past few seasons and how much they adjusted, I know Blake Griffin had injuries this year that he had to adjust with, but the Clippers didn't even make it past the first round. Like, what are you telling me here? That they've got 2 top 10 players?
I'm off the Blake train. Took me 2 years? Dan, 2 years? 2 years I was on the Blake train. Took me a long time. I'm off the Blake train. At least as a Clipper. At least in that system. Maybe I could be proven wrong if he goes elsewhere. Oklahoma City, at any point in his career, wherever. He can come to New York, too. Fine, sure. He's at least young. He won't get injured. Oh, wait. He probably will. So I agree with you, though. I think Draymond Green should be at the very cusp of that. I think it's great they have Paul George in there.
No, so do I.
And especially if you start looking and you start realizing that you want to pick another dark horse MVP candidate to bet on, Paul George is definitely in that conversation.
I mean, before it's just that's the final point on it is at face value, right? Here we have a top 10 list. You have 2 players that you consider on the top 10 in the NBA for a team that didn't make it past the first round of the playoffs, and you have one player from the team that made it to the finals, one player from the other team that won it. So you've got one player from the Golden State Warriors without Kevin Durant.
Without Kevin Durant.
Right? So we're not considering him yet because we're not seeing him for the Golden State Warriors. And you have LeBron James.
Right.
That's flawed.
It's a
whatever way you look at it.
Logically, it's a little flawed, but that's based a lot on playoffs. Where I think they're looking more at a complete package. They're looking at the skill set specifically, too, which makes it even more interesting of a debate, hence why I really love talking about these top 10s, top 100s. I wanted to go into the Steph Curry versus Russell Westbrook thing, because I know since Steph Curry has become the most hated man in the NBA, where he used to be the most loved man in the NBA.
He'll go back to being loved.
And he could go back to being loved, the whole Curry family, to say the least. I wanted to go into this Steph Curry versus Russell Westbrook debate because, again, I equally love both these players. I don't have a stake in either one specifically. But if you start looking at what a lot of the criticisms or I shouldn't say criticisms, why people think Russell Westbrook is better than Steph Curry, they have to maybe take a quick step back. The numbers on paper are entirely different. And before I contradict my own argument for why Russell Westbrook should be MVP if he averages these numbers, again, I was looking and still am looking at that I'm looking at that as most writers will vote. I understand how these writers vote. It makes sense how they vote, and it makes sense that they don't throw this open to the public. So again, the numbers that Westbrook could throw up on top of being at least a top 6, 7 seed will probably get him an MVP or at least very, very close. As to why Steph Curry is ranked higher than Russell Westbrook and why he still should be? A few reasons. Obviously, shooting percentages. No one touches Curry. Russell Westbrook has a different skill set. His athleticism, he's a better defender, definitely a better defender one-on-one. Where a lot of people are falling short, he's also a better rebounder, Russell Westbrook. However, the finishing at the rim stat is the one thing people say, like, no one's better in the guard position at getting to the rim than Russell Westbrook. He's the quickest one to get to the rim. He's explosive off his first step. That is all very true. But the key word is finishing. And inside 3 feet, there is no one guard better than Steph Curry. Westbrook can get there faster. He can get there in a more entertaining way. He can throw it down to make the highlight reel dunk, and it is terrifying. He can slice and dice right through a defense. So can Steph Curry. There's some very easy numbers to prove that. In the restricted area last season, Steph Curry was shooting 65.9% at the rim. Russell Westbrook, 57.9%. That's not even close in terms of your finishing ability. And then you want to make it even more interesting? Let's extend that just to 5 feet. Inside 5 feet, Steph Curry, 64.5%. Russell Westbrook, 56.9%. Again, a major, major difference. The other categories I kind of wrote down to like the T-chart here.
Show them the graph.
Transition, I don't have a graphic. I made it on my paper.
No, show them on your. This is what the research that Jason Rubin's been doing on this. And you deserve the credit for that, Jay, because how many people would look at this at face value, see Russell Westbrook and all his athleticism and that extra step that he almost has on every single NBA player to get to the rim and think to yourself, Steph Curry can't do that. He's too small. Like he has to rely on that shot that comes down with snow on it in order to evade it. But that's how creative he can be, because he understands that he's not as big as his opponent. So he has to adjust on that shot, and he perfected it. So that statistic to me, I didn't know, and it was interesting. But again, you need to back up some of these ridiculous claims that we will see out there that people will just verbally just puke in the comment section. This is what happens. He's better. Watch him. Watch these highlight tapes. Look at the stats, and you will see that it's backed up. And hence why after this, I'm going to go and look back at the stats and prove that Draymond Green, no matter what, should be in the top 10. Kyrie Irving should be in the top 10 if you're looking ahead of this year.
Offensively. All right, we got a minute. Last thing, so I just want to point out that Chris Paul ahead of Russell Westbrook also. From the writer's perspective, I get that. Chris Paul is the best pure point guard in the league, the best defending point guard in the league. That's the type of skill set that they are looking that is more important to the team than what Russell Westbrook was doing last season. Although those 3 guards are so very interchangeable, and I think a lot of it comes down to what do you want to build your team around. So it's not like I'm saying, oh, Westbrook sucks, Curry's that much better. No, he's just that much better than him. Just that much better. And lastly, take off Chris Paul off that team and just put DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin. Maybe they win 35 games. Ooh. Bold statement.
You took him off the team and they didn't make.
Oh no! I'm not gonna. I don't have to get to the quote to LeBron. If you don't know why LeBron's the best player on the planet,
And I was going to say that.
I don't know.
That is not interchangeable. Everything else can be argued, but there is no interchanging of number 1.
Comment below, everybody. Like, favorite, subscribe. Who do you think should have been in the top 10 that wasn't? Are you Team Green? Should he have been there? Team Kyrie? Should he have been in there? John Wall, maybe? At France_Maxwell, at Jason Rubin 91. That's it. We'll see you next time.